All right, and we are live. We are recording. Yay! Thank you so much. My name is Trina Johnson. I am one of the co-owners of Amazing Speaks, which is an international speaker training program where we help women and men find their voice. And I'm going to introduce tonight. Our topic is talk about the core self, like thought and the core self. And so I'm going to introduce Dr. Elizabeth Castle, who is going to kind of talk us through like what is the core self, why is it important, and how can we get a better control of it. So, Dr. Elizabeth, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Castle, and I'm a co-owner with our Amazing Voices, Amazing Speaks. I just want this to be Amazing Voices. It's Amazing Speaks. Okay, and we're going to talk about the core self tonight. So when we look at that, and I listened to what you were saying when you first came in, and it's so important because the core self is really technically our belief system, what we believe about ourselves and our truths. And sometimes we can fake it that we believe it and we don't, but in the end, it doesn't wash out. So, but when we start re-regulating the way we process how we look at ourselves, then we believe in ourselves. We believe that we can do things that other people might feel that we aren't able to do. So that's a positive thing. So for example, say you're not a speaker, or you're not, just really don't like just jumping up and then being an impromptu speaker. Okay, so what caused that? Is it low self-esteem, or did we have a bad experience? We have to go back and we have to really readjust. And once we identify what caused it, now we have to look at, how did it make me feel? So did it change? Did it cause me to be embarrassed? Did it cause me to feel broken or inadequate? And in processing all of that, then we have to deal with ourselves. Okay, so if I felt embarrassed, what led to the embarrassment? And being truthful with ourselves, I was embarrassed probably because I didn't pronounce my words correctly. Or I didn't feel comfortable. Maybe I wasn't dressed correctly. These are things that you can change. So now what you're going to do is re-fortify your core self to, I can change the way I dress. I can practice how I speak. And I'm going to feel better about myself. And I'm going to go a little further. I'm going to speak again. And I'm going to address those things that I acknowledge that hindered my first speech. So when we deal with the core self, then number one, we have to be truthful to ourselves. Number two, we have to be able to admit that we have a shortcoming. All of us have shortcomings somewhere, but we can always rectify that by the way we look at things, the way we process things. And then how we have to definitely address the emotional side of us. How do I feel about, how do I feel? You know, am I embarrassed to be wrong? Sometimes people really don't want to be wrong. And that's a whole nother thing which changes your impression of yourself. So we have to acknowledge where we are, recognize it, and call the truth out on the level of truth. And then we have to be able to go back, evaluate our new position, and not be afraid to go forward in that new position. You were teaching basically the same thing, how the mind, and it's our mind, because what our truth is, the core of our being affects our mind. It's attached into our mind. And the mind is attached to the soul. So one of the major problems is that when we have a weak core, that means that our soul is offended. Our soul is bruised. So the soul is a place of decision. It's where our right meets our wrong, our light meets our darkness, our good meets our evil. So how we perceive depends on how we project. So if we perceive ourselves as, oh, I messed up, I stumbled, oh, I tripped, oh, I didn't pronounce this word wrong, I pronounced this word incorrectly. Okay, now how does that make you feel? I feel like an idiot. I don't feel very good, but you know, I kind of went over it real quick, so probably no one could really detect what I was saying. So it's a juggling game, but the juggling game is balanced by, again, reinforcing your core self, reinforcing the way you look at yourself, how you process, how you handle defeat, and if you're going to get back up. You wanted to say something? I'm sorry, I can't, did you want to say something?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. Okay. So even when you were speaking and
Yeah.
your book, I'm really interested in your book. What caused you to write that book?
Well, some years ago, I had a traumatic brain and spinal cord injury,
Okay.
and everything changed for me during that healing process. And I don't know if it was because of the forced meditative, well, I believe in part it was because of the forced meditative state that I was able to get back in touch with my true source. But I learned that I really had no room in my life for negative thoughts, negative energy, because if someone did something negative, I could feel my brain swell. And I realized that thoughts were had a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going back to my mentors. It took me, and when I went back to work, I had forgotten how to do my job. So there was this delicate dance of faking it, but doing just enough to learn without swelling my brain and getting reconcussed.
Mm-hmm.
But through that journey, I intuitively figured out tools to let only only positive thoughts in,
Mm-hmm.
and to really think of feelings that brought my body joy, so that I was retraining my tree in my brain and reprogramming that redundant feedback loop, because most of our thoughts that we have in our lives are negative.
Mm-hmm.
And realize that, I can't wake up every day and do the same thing and expect a new change in my life. I have to really take control. And so over time, I feel like I changed my neurocircuitry and my outlook, and I changed, even if I didn't like the environment of work, I could change perception of and reaction to that environment and be happy no matter what. It's like when people fall in love and all of a sudden their world is so different. They still have the crappy job that they hated a day ago, but they've got this heightened emotion now, this elevated emotion that is reprogramming their circuitry.
Exactly.
So anyway, that whole process, I've just become a new identity almost. It's kind of been an identity, not kind of, it's been a whole identity shift.
Right. So technically, you re-energize your core self from the broken state or the state you did that. And
I feel like I woke up to myself again, like an old friend going, "Oh, there you are."
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we lose that I'm legally blind, so I'm challenged with my eyes a lot. When I can't see, which was like the first 5 months of this year, I had to force myself not to be afraid, to step out on my own. I challenged myself because I'm usually pretty brave, but at the hospital, you can go down, you can ride the elevator, or you can go down the steps, and the steps are kind of dark. And so I forced myself to say, you will not have fear consume you. You will let Megan take the elevator because she doesn't want to use the steps, and you will go down these steps. And I had to keep talking to myself and talking to my core. You can do this. You can really do this. Now, my core was fighting against me. My core said, now let's be realistic. Someone could come and just knock you out on these steps. No one would know because Megan's on the elevator. There's no one here. You're going to need to intense your hearing. So you need to pump your hearing up so that you can hear anything that moves, so you'll be able to respond. But you don't need to be afraid if you hear something that frightens you. And so I was constantly talking to myself. I only had to go down, like, I think 2 layers of stairs. And I beat Megan down the steps. So by the time I got down the steps, I felt my way out the door, leaned up against the wall, and said, you did it. You did it. And I felt better that I wasn't a weakling. I was a blind girl, but I could do things without assistance. So I had to regenerate my thought pattern, because I was warring with myself the whole time. You're crazy. This is not a good place for you to be. But I made it down the steps. So I had to regenerate myself. I'm usually positive about mostly everything. except I can't drive anymore. That I don't extend the core self to that part. I don't electrify the core self to that part. Because this is the funny part. I would drive, but I would tell, okay, light check. I know I was coming to a light check, and they would give me the color of the light, but I wouldn't dare do that now. But it's changing. I see you're so positive in the way that you illustrate your story. I see you doing another book, and I just want to encourage you to continue to keep writing, because you're a discoverer. And I can see that with you have a way of motivating people. And that's your basic core. You know, you learn, then you share with someone else so that they can learn.
Well, sometimes when something so powerful and life-altering happens to you, and you feel so much joy and bliss on a daily basis, you you regain that birthright and that power that you lost over time. You just want everyone in the world to know that it's possible, and you don't have to wait for an injury or an illness. It's like, why not be happy now?
Exactly, and that's real, and that's real time. Why not be happy now? Because we always have that choice. We always have that choice. And that's a lot of times, if you have, say you have negative people around you, and you're basically a positive person, but you have so much that negative energy is stronger around you, then that's when the core self makes a readjustment. It's either going to stand its ground or it's going to waver. But that's when we have to allow our mind, and you said about that mind, we have to allow our mind to connect with our truth. And the truth is, I'm nervous because I feel that everyone's looking at me, or everyone have their eyes on me. But I can do this. I've done it before. So the mind now has to come into a gear, march, do it, go for it, and it just electrifies the whole body. Even when you're talking about your book, I got really excited because I've been trying to teach a lot of the students that I have to think like that. Well, I'm not going to make it. You're going to make it, but you have to believe you can make it. So you can't allow the moment of doubt to be your swallowing post for your life. So that's really neat. When is your book going to be out?
First quarter 2019.
Okay.
So by March.
Definitely want to read it. Now, what's the name of it?
It's called Mindset Metamorphosis for Really Busy People.
Oh, I like that.
So the message is, I don't care how busy you are, how stressed out a professional you are, you can transform your transformative thinking for transformative living is the subtitle. And
that's phenomenal. Do you speak for small groups or large groups?
I'm going for corporate, but I will speak for 10 people or 2,000.
I see you doing that. I see you showing people how to stand up in front of the crowd and how to gather the energy, even from the crowd, to electrify them. That's positive. I'm looking forward to reading your book.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to finishing it.
So how far are you into it?
Well, originally it was going to be 110 pages, and now it's going to be more like 190, and I'm about 125 pages in.
So you motivated yourself to go further.
Yeah, I mean, you can write, 50 books. It's hard because it involves quantum physics versus Newtonian physics, epigenetics, neuropsychoimmunology. There's so many tangents you could go off in, but you got to keep it simple and draw it back in.
Exactly. And
relate it to my audience. So it's hard to just contain it to 100 pages, but I don't. At the same point, I want it to be simple so that people can really take these tools and apply them.
Right. I can see that your book in itself is going to, challenge people's cores to say, I can do this. I can do that, because you carry that kind of energy. So I haven't read anything that you have, but I can feel your energy when you speak. So if you speak anything like you write, they're going to definitely pick that up and embrace it, and it will charge them.
So I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, it will. It will. So Trina,
Yes.
Something you want to add?
No, I'm like loving this discussion, really. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys have connected, and I'd kind of forgotten a little bit about Lynn's story, but now that I'm listening, I'm like going, yes, that's why she's so amazing. But yeah, I mean, the core self is so important. That whole believing in yourself and knowing who you are is really vital. And kind of what Lynn said, I mean, it actually took a crisis of a different sort for me to one day wake up and go, oh my gosh, I've been like sleepwalking through life. You know, I mean, seriously, just everything was on autopilot. And then one day it really was kind of a switch. You know, the light came on and said, oh my gosh, there is actually more to life. I could actually do things differently. I could actually be happy. I was allowing myself to be unhappy. And I was allowing that. Right? Go ahead.
Oh, but it's not your fault, because, you know, whenever, like, we get these beliefs when we're very, very young, right? And then
exactly.
And like, let's say Johnny doesn't do well in spelling bee in 6th grade, and his parents are like, you're just going to do better next time. You got to do better. And it's coming from a place of love, but he hears I'm not good enough. And so every time he doesn't do well on a test or something bad happens, that thought, which creates an emotion, a feeling, an emotion, that kind of creates this redundant feedback loop without him knowing, because his brain is too young to have any analytical processing. And it just, so we get hardwired with these emotions, and it's almost like we become addicted to that chemical reaction, and it's all in the subconscious. So most of us will live our lives like that until something happens. And I think it's so much fun to start this training with people, you know, young kids in maybe like 5th grade or 6th grade.
Even
yeah, whenever the brain's ready, and then think about like how much more positive this world would be. We all just learned the secret, you know, to our own happiness.
Right. Yeah, I think it took me to mid-30s, right? Before it finally kind of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And it really was. I mean, it wasn't that I was, no, that's not, I was pretty miserable. And the only reason I was really miserable is because I wasn't pursuing things that made me happy.
Happy, that's right.
And once I realized that, you know what, and actually it was, you know, there are a lot of things that I can attribute to, you know, getting me on the right path. But there was a book called The Passion Test. It was by Chris and Janet Atwood. And that actually, when I took the passion test for the first time, it was shocking to me that, you know, because they force you to go through all these different exercises, and you're, you know, pick this then that, pick this then that, you know, it's like, if this then, you know, it's like you go through these exercises, and suddenly you've got like this list of 5 things. And I looked at this list of 5 things and I said, this is supposedly the things that I'm passionate about and things that are important to me. And I'm not doing any of them in any sort of manner at all. In fact, if you'd asked me of those top 5, the things that are coming out through this exercise of the 5 things that I most want in my life, they were probably 30 or 40 down the list before I'd even done one of them, like within 3 years. And it really kind of, and I looked at it and I knew that those 5 things were right. And I was like going, wow, I am so off base of what I'm supposed to be doing. And really, I kept that list in front of me for a while going, I've got to do more of those kinds of things. And actually on that list was writing and speaking. Those were like in my top 5.
Which you love.
Yeah, but at that time, I wasn't writing anything, you know, except for legal briefs maybe. But I mean, I really was not doing any I wasn't journaling. I wasn't doing any kind of writing. And then it was just like, oh my gosh, that actually makes me happy.
But you know,
Oh,
Tina,
yeah.
you are task oriented. So if you're task oriented, that's where you're going to stay focused until you change your core. So, and I'm the same way. If I'll do things that I don't particularly like because it's guaranteed I'm supposed to do it. I even made a commitment or whatever. But I love music. I love singing. I love speaking. I love the things I love to do. I don't really do as much. The speaking, yes, because I talk a lot. I speak a lot in different places. But the singing, I don't do that. But when we're task oriented, it makes a problem for us because those that are task oriented will stick to that task, rebuke their core self because they are committed until we realize that we're important and we need to do something that's going to make us live and not just be functioning.
Right.
So that creates
Exactly.
a challenge.
Right.
A challenge.
And that really is the key point, right? Is that you've got to make that realization that, I mean, I came to the realization that I was not living in alignment with what I really want. I realized that I was like way out of whack and my priorities were not my priorities.
Exactly.
I had priorities that the world thought should be my priorities, or
The difference.
my clients thought were my priorities, or whatever, but they were not my priorities.
Exactly.
And at some point it was just like, you know what, wait, there's got to be a change. And for me it really was coming in alignment with realizing what were the kinds of things that like made me happy, what were the kinds of things that gave me joy, and allowing myself to do those even when that wasn't really what others expected or wanted from me.
That that's true. Just recently I had a birthday and
Yes, you
Megan
did. Happy birthday.
thanks. Megan had created this beautiful birthday party bash for me. I said, this is all I want. Tell them to give me money so I can go to Africa. That's all I want to do. I want to go to Africa because I have an orphanage over there that I need to attend to in Kenya, and then I need to do something in Liberia, working along with one of my godchildren. And I said, that's all I want to do. But they wanted to have this party. And so what you're saying, and my core self is saying, okay, everyone's doing this because they think this is going to make you happy, but you would rather be in Africa, hoping that Megan's laughing. You'd rather be in Africa, taking care of the kids. So I met with one of my old friends, Marlene Capena, and I said, listen, I need you to give me Dr. Vega's number. I'm going to call her because they have a ship that travels and they take care of kids that are sick. And some of my kids in the orphanage have AIDS. So I want to contact them and get them to come over, and I'm going over. So, I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about Michelle. Michelle loves Trina, and she wants to do a Morelli in Johannesburg. And
Yes,
she's
gotta do
always
that.
working with women, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, this is something my core self really wants to get involved with. And so Michelle just called me and she said, oh, Mom, what are we going to do? She's going to bring Morelli over here. I said, she's going to work that out. We're going to work that out. But
All right, we'll work that out.
yeah, I like to see people become engaged in what they really, really want to do. Now, my mom taught me at an early age because I've been challenged with my eyes ever since I was born. But she used to always tell me this, Sissy, you can do whatever you put your mind to. Do what you feel is right. And so my eyes would tell me, you really can't do that. You really can't do that. You can't see. But then I had to learn how to allow other people to help me, and lose. My core self had pride. Like, I don't want people to think I'm blind and I'm handicapped. Can't do this myself. That was in the way. So I had to come to the place to say, listen, girl, you really can't see. That is a fact. That's why you wear these baby blue bifocals. Let them help you where you need help, and help them where they don't have, where they're short. They'll, let's just work this thing out. Then you can do what you want to do. So a lot of times our core self can be a blessing to us, but if we don't allow it to burst open to realize I have a serious eye condition. But I also realize if I put my pride on the side and let someone help me where I can't do something, then I can accomplish what I need to accomplish. So we have to be able to regulate that. We have to be able to regulate, and our mind is very, very important, because the soul, the mind, and the core self, they're all kind of entwined with each other. The soul is the place of decision. It's where you make all your decisions. Right meets wrong, light meets darkness, good meets evil. Your mind can only do what your core projects it to proceed to do. So we have to learn how to do, we have to understand these relationships. We don't understand relationships in our body, and we don't want to be truthful to ourselves, just like I didn't want to be a little blind girl. But that's life. I am a little blind girl. So let's make the best of this. And so, you know, that's a lot of times, even when I'm working with kids or families, you know, you can't change people, but you have to know you first. Before you want to bring this group together or a body together, you have to know your positives and your negatives. You have to know, for a lot of us, we're task focused. And that's what one of my friends was telling me again today. They said, well, you do things because you're task focused. You'll do it because it's required to do, and you know you need to do it. It might not necessarily be what you want to do. And I think we get more. I love this with Trina. I travel a lot, and I'm like, gotta put more time in this, gotta put more time in this. So I have to tell my core self, gotta break something down, you gotta rearrange, and you have to get energized into focusing this amazing speaks into everything that you do. And so I have to change my core self to do that. I have to be task oriented, but I have to be task oriented with purpose. So yeah, that's really neat. You have a really neat story. A really neat. I would love to have you. Are you ever in the Charleston area?
Talking to me?
Are you in the Charleston area? Are you ever in Charleston?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not usually in Charleston, but I could get there. I'm over in the Raleigh-Durham area.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Can
I'm
we get?
doing this by a phone, so I'm not in front of my computer like you guys. So.
Okay. Trina's on her phone.
Oh, you are, Trina? No.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get you to Charleston.
I would love to, though.
Because I would love to have you and Trina on the television show and on the radio show, because we record on Thursdays, and talk about this. Because
I didn't know I was going to be on camera. I would have worn like makeup or something, because I present a lot better than I'm looking now.
No, we're not into makeup. I just threw on some lipstick. I don't wear makeup, but I just threw on some lipstick because my lips are chapped.
You know, it's funny what you were saying before. And I went after my head injury, because I didn't know anyone in the area. It's just me and my dog. And how I got through the traumatic brain injury, and my cognition was 0 to 5%. It took me years to get through that, and the surgeries and everything else. And just by myself. Don't ask me how I did it, but I remember someone said, well, God only gives you what you can handle. And I said, no, I've learned he gives you more than you can handle, so you can ask for help.
Okay.
And
I like that.
That's when I learned how to ask for help. And some people showed up, and some people said they would show up, and they didn't. But I could not let that get to me either, because I had to take care of this.
That's a blessing. And that's strength. It shows your strength. And I can't really see your face that well, but you have such a glow around. You have such a glow around your face, and the energy that's inside of you. You'll be able to, even with your book, it's going to really lift a lot of people to see that it is possible to change.
Yeah, I think so.
That's positive. And it's a really good. Trina does that all the time. She's always coming up with something new. And people take the energy that she offers, and they start feeling better about themselves and stepping out. So, you know, it's a blessing when the core self becomes so powerful that it begins to move out of the atmosphere of the individual into the lives of other people. That's really positive.
Yeah, and there's this constant negotiation we have to do with our ego and our brain, because that's all there to protect us. So it's always trying to find things to be afraid of and to be protect. Where, you know, you really everything's okay. Everything, if you could just surrender and settle into that, you know. But that's where these limited beliefs come into play, and you know, I can't do it, and I'm not good enough, and you know, I do this little thing. I had a deadline once, and whenever I have a somatic reaction, I pay attention. Because when you have a real somatic, a very high anxiety reaction, that's when you really got to dig deep and go, what on earth is happening? And I remember I was afraid of this deadline, and I said, okay, what is it about it? I'm not going to meet it. And I do this little game. So what? So, well, I just merged into this new bank. They may not like me if I don't miss the deadline. So what? So they might fire me. So what? Well, then I might be out of a job. So what? Well, I might not have any money to pay the bills. So what? I might not, I'll end up homeless, and so what? Then I'll be alone and unloved, and boom, primal first shock or fear, basic fear of being alone and unloved. And then I reality test. Okay. Have you ever missed a deadline? No. Have you ever been unemployed and not able to pay the bills? Yeah, but have you found a way? Yeah. Have you ever been alone and unloved? No. So I'm creating this all up here. Exactly. And then it's almost like it totally loses its power. Because most of these beliefs that we have are not true at all. They're based on some misinterpreted reaction to some event that happened that we misinterpreted. So we created this false lens. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I definitely.
We make it up. We seriously make up stories of things that will probably never ever happen, but we convince ourselves that that's the way it's going to go, and we have no basis for that. We have no. It's like, what? That's never happened before, so why is it going to happen this time? Because I made it up, because I read in some book in 3rd grade that kind of thing happened to someone somewhere. It's like, but it's never happened to me. But you make it up.
It's so funny.
And you allow yourself to think it, even though it's like, no, that's not going to happen.
When I was a little girl, not too little, I was a gymnast. And my mom was really afraid for me to be a gymnast because of my eyes. But I didn't use my eyes like that because I couldn't see like that. So I used my vibrations around me to tell me where I was going to land, how I was going to fall. And my basic core believed in me. And that's what we have to do. We have to be in a state of believing in whatever we really want to do. But sometimes we talk ourselves out of things. My mother was panicking. My father was like, I don't think we need to allow her to do that. But when they saw me on the parallel bars and things like that, they were like, I can't believe that she's doing this. But to me, it was okay. And I'm thinking about that now that I'm grown. I was crazy because I really couldn't see. I really believed in myself that I was going to do a good job, and I did it. So my core was settled in the odds against me. My core was positive that, if they just believe in me. And something you said a few minutes ago, even when we pick up people's vibrations, we pick up their emotions, or I can't see a person's face, but I can feel their spirit really fast. So if you feel something, it affects your core, unless your core is grounded, unless your core is anchored to come back, like you were saying. Ask myself this question. They might not believe in me, but I believe in me. So I can still do it. But if it's someone that you respect or someone that you feel have authority over you and they don't believe, then it can affect you because it starts weakening the internal part of you. Like, they don't believe in me, then why don't they believe in me? And a lot of times we find that creates a problem. So you have to go back and start, like you were saying, ask yourself those questions. They don't believe, that doesn't mean I can't do it. So I agree with you totally on that. We have to recondition or refocus ourselves or refocus our energy levels so that we can be successful in whatever we do. Positive is a positive thing. My kids laugh at me because I like plants, but I'm never home enough to keep them alive. So I talk to them before I leave. I'm going to overwater you, okay? I don't want you to choke out. I don't want you to be brown when I come back. And it works. It really works sometimes. Sometimes.
That's good. That's good.
Power of intention.
Yeah.
Right. I intend for you to live while I'm gone, even without water.
Without water, right. That is so great. I'm waiting to see your book. I'm waiting to read your book.
I'm ready to finish it. Yeah, it's in 3 parts. It's kind of like, here's you know, the why this is important, and you need to commit, and why you need to commit, and where these thoughts come from. And then the middle part is all these tips and tools and the how-tos.
Wow.
And then third part is, you know, how to maintain this. And I'm a health coach, so I have to incorporate a little bit of nutrition,
Okay.
some
Yes.
meditation, physical activity, and then
That's
doing
good.
work. And I define work. It's an acronym in my mind as WORK, where our realities kindle. Because if you do the work and you're disciplined and consistent, there's absolutely no way you can't ignite a new reality for yourself. There's absolutely no way you can't. If you're committed and you're really committed to rewiring your brain circuitry, you're going to be a different identity.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it change your personality will change your personal reality.
It's very true. I teach that a lot. That is very true. Especially when you're working with at-risk kids. And you have to give them the hope, because their core self a lot of times is broken, have broken pieces.
Yeah.
And which you have to go back in and show them, you can do this. You might think you can't do it, but I see you doing it. You can do it. I tell you what, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to take no for an answer. So you just won't leave the classroom until you do it. And they get it. Like, I can't do what you think I can do. I'm like, oh, I know you can do it. And they finally get it. Like, and when they do, they're so elated. I remember we had a roadie. We used to work with WJIN, and we worked at Youthville, was, you know, at-risk kids, really at-risk kids, last chance school. And so I told my partner, I said, listen, let's tell the radio station we want them to come to the school. Some of these kids have beautiful personalities. We're going to show them how to DJ. He said, I don't know if they're going to go for it. I said, they'll go for it. So we talked to them. They went for it. They brought the live equipment to the school, and I picked certain kids that I know wouldn't be afraid to do it. When I tell you, those kids, they just changed their whole outlook. They became so positive, and they were really good. So a lot of times the energy that we have, we can help other people re-energize where they're lost. You're a miracle. You are a miracle. I remember Trina telling me your story. I kept saying I heard this story before, but Trina told me your story, and to meet you was a blessing.
Likewise.
So thank
But
you.
you know, with those kids, you know, they probably are at a joy deficit in their life, and they don't have a lot of people that have shown or demonstrated faith in them. So when you have absolute faith and you are trusting in their experience, that comes as kind of that's out of their comfort zone. So it might take them a while to go, well, okay, and ease into that. So good for you.
Yeah, they were great. Once they started and they started getting a response back, because I told them we were going to open the mic and let people call in, and they did. And the kids were like, oh, I'm an announcer. So it was like, it was really fun. It was really
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
Yay.
Trina,
Cool.
you have anything else?
Yes. Nope, I think it's probably about time to wrap it up, right?
This has been fun.
Yeah, it has been fun.
This has been fun. Yeah.
We have to get her down, Trina, because we want to do a show with her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and absolutely, and I think we probably should do some sort of Amazing Speak mixer or something.
That would be great.
You know, definitely.
That would really be
together. Yeah. I think we should do it.
I'm in.
But, you know, your travel schedule now.
Don't worry. We're working around it. I'll just take more energy.
All right.
Vitamins.
There you go.
We'll take it. Look, I stayed here tonight because I know we were going to have this, and I know we couldn't do it on the road. So I'll make the sacrifices, whatever I need to do.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. I am going to finish the recording, but then the recording will be available. You know, like tomorrow, I will load up so that we can share it out. And thank you so much. And then we'll do this again the first week of December, the first Monday of December, whenever that is.
Yes.
And we'll talk then.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Megan, you need to help me. I don't know.